morning sun shines on the gleaming hide of a muscular ranch horse. The aroma of bacon and coffee drifts from the wood cook stove at a cow camp. Silver spurs jingle as the men and women of the West get set for another day in the saddle. From the heart of Canada's finest ranching country, this is the Spirit of the West with rancher and horse trainer Hugh McLennan and his collection of music, poetry, and conversations with the folks who live and work with horses and cattle in the Spirit of the West.
His famous father was known far and wide and loved as the last of the silver screen cowboys, but he had a stellar career in his own right, doing it his own way. Recordings, concert stages, national television shows, and so much more. And he's planning to wrap it all up with his final farewell performance this fall at the place where it all started and where he first got paid to sing in front of a big audience at the age of 15. Rex Allen Jr. has just released what he says is his last recording of Western music. He did a couple of wonderful sets at the 40th annual Ivan Daines Country Music Picnic last summer, and I've been lucky enough to spend some time listening to Rex's wonderful stories, and today he's on the line from Nashville, and you'll enjoy hearing more from this legend.
I finished it, and I was doing 2 shows a day, 6 days a week. It's kind of like a Branson gig. And I just, I set my guitar down, and I said, I don't think I ever want to play this darn thing ever again in my life.
And dear old Baxter Black is here with a story about one of the worst deals a lifelong horse trader ever made.
His shirt was ripped off, his hat looked like a hippopotamus cud, and one spur was bent sideways.
And all of us in the livestock business are concerned about our products being safe. And on the Rangeland News, you'll hear about a big mistake that's often made in the kitchen.
Stop it. It spreads bacteria around your kitchen.
Stop what? Well, you'll find out today. And a very nice piece of cowboy poetry this week.
Dad's old boots are still resting there, just outside the kitchen door.
You hear the voice of Johnny Western introducing this show each week. And Johnny will have our classic Song of the West, and I'll bring you some information about that song. And Rex Allen Jr. will have a lot to say about Johnny Western. And he'll be on the line after a song he wrote and recorded here with the Sons of the Pioneers and his dad.
Up every morning at the break of day, you'll hear a big-bearded cowboy at the chuck wagon say, gather round, boys, the coffee's hot on the fire. There's a full day of branding, we're heating the irons. I want to smell that scorched hair and burning hide. The horses are grain, you know they're ready to ride. Roll up your bedrolls and jump in your boots. Daylight is a-wasting, boys, it's out of the chutes. Come on and ride, cowboy, ride. Roll up your rietas and pull your sombrero down tight. We're gonna ride, ride, ride where the trail will wind. You better drive, drive, drive or we'll leave you behind. Come on and ride, ride, cowboy, ride. Cowboy, ride. It's a beautiful morning and you've had a good rest. You ropers get ready to be at your best. Let's saddle them ponies and tighten the cinch. Pull on your gloves and take your hat off the fence. We'll get the cattle to market, and after they're sold, you can all let your hair down, get lazy or bold. Ride into town and find a lady or two to take you by the arm and shake the dust off your boots. Come on and ride, cowboy, ride. Roll up your rietas and pull your sombrero down tight. We're gonna ride, ride, ride where the trail will wind. You better drive, drive, drive or we'll leave you behind. Come on and ride, ride, cowboy, ride. Cowboy,
Cowboy, ride. Rex Allen Jr. and the background chorus consisting of his dad and the Sons of the Pioneers. And Rex Jr. is on the line today.
Back in Tucson, oh gosh, I don't know, could be 15, 20 years ago or more, at the WMA, I was invited up to the hotel suite that you and your dad were in, and we watched the landing of John Glenn, a 70-year-old astronaut. on television, and then you and I recorded an interview with your dad, and it was just wonderful stuff. And when we finished, he said, Hugh, would you like to talk to Rex Jr.? And I said, oh, I'd love to. So he says, Chico, come on in here and talk to Hugh. So we sat down and carried on, and I had this little Marantz battery-operated cassette recorder, and we were nicely into the interview, and you noticed that the tape was not going around anymore.
That's right, battery died.
Exactly. Well, this is ironic because I'm recording this on the very same machine from a phone line. So,
oh, no.
So, yeah, but I got a new one in here, so it should be okay. But oh, man, the memories you have collected, sunrise to sunset, your farewell tour, my goodness. Did you start out by shining about 75 pairs of boots to get ready for the tour?
Well, I started getting paid when I was about 15. Dad never paid me, but I used to work for him. I'd ask Dad. I said I'd be working with Dad, and the band would be getting paid, and I said, Dad, when am I going to get paid? Because I was singing in his shows and stuff, and he says, well, you got dinner tonight, didn't you? I said, yeah, I guess so. And then as for the boot shining, when Dad used to leave in those days, back when I was between 12 and 15, he'd come in and kiss me goodbye, and he'd be gone for 3 months. He'd go from one rodeo to the next. And it used to take a week to load him out. Not just him, but the horse, too. He had to load the darn horse up, too, Coco. All the stuff that he had to have. He had to have the grain and this and that and the hay and all that other stuff. And then all the tack. It wasn't just shining boots. I had to shine and clean all the tack, too.
Oh, my gosh.
So, and then Dad, in those days, he would, for every outfit he had a different pair of boots and that matched it. And so I would have to go in and take, 3 or 4 days and shine boots, there was a specific way they had to be done, all the heels had to have heel dye on them, and all that other stuff, and so, trust me, I know how to shine boots.
Welcome to show business. Oh, boy.
Mm-hmm. Coming right up, you'll hear Rex Jr. singing a song that his dad wrote at the age of 15, and it became the theme for about 20 of his Western movies from Republic Pictures, when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. On the line today is Rex Allen Jr., and he's got a busy touring schedule winding up in Wilcox, Arizona at Rex Allen Days. And Rex, the latest CD, Garage Songs 10, you say it's your last Western album.
Well, it's my last Western album. I've done, Hugh, look, throughout my career, and every album I've ever done, even back to the Warner Brothers days, I always did a Western, at least one Western song on every album I did. And the reason why is because that's my heritage. It'd be like Hank Jr. not singing Kalijah, for goodness sake. Well, I did it because Western music and that sort of stuff is what I grew up with. And so if you really were historically correct and listened to all of my old albums and all the way through the new ones, you'll hear that the harmonies are Western harmonies. They're not bluegrass, and they're definitely not country. And they're Western music harmonies. That's because that's the way I learned to sing them. But I have done, I've done, two, as you and I talked before, I've done 2 albums with Jim Farrell and the Diamond W. Wranglers down in Wichita. And part of the reason I did them down there was because in those days, when I did those 2, I did one in 2006, another one in 2010. But they were the best I thought they were the best Western group out there. And that's why I went to them to do those CDs. But I have done, I've done so many Western songs, and the new album, Garage Songs 10, this is my last cowboy song, it is my last full Western album. I think it's kind of like one of those things that it's my kind of Western music. You know, it's kind of like my dad. You know, my dad had huge Western hits like Streets of Laredo, and it was cut with the Victor Young Orchestra. For goodness
Yeah,
sake.
right. Victor Young and his singing strings
And yeah, and all that stuff. And, you know, Albino Pink-Eyed Stallion dad cut, and it was a big, big production to do those things. Well, I like to think that my music, my take on Western music is that it's unique, and like I am unique, like everybody is unique. So there are songs on the new album, on the 10 album, Garage Songs 10, that go from my very beginning roots with Toolie Roll'em, Toolie Raylum, Toolie Roll'em, T-Raylum, which is Arizona Cowboy, which was Dad wrote when he was 14 years old. Theme song in all of his movies.
Toolie Roll'em, T-Raylum, T-Raylum, T-Roam. I'm an Arizona cowboy, and the desert's my home. I was born in Arizona, among the cactus and hills. The memory of my childhood still lingers with me still, of mother and dad and the old folks back home, where cattle is king and the longhorns still roam, where a horse and a man become partners at dawn. In nighttime I'm singing this cowpuncher song. Toolie Roll'em, T-Raylum, T-Raylum, T-Roam. I'm an Arizona cowboy, and the desert's my home. Toolie Roll'em, T-Raylum, T-Raylum, T-Roam. I'm an Arizona cowboy, and the desert's my home.
Toolie Roll'em, T-Raylum, T-Raylum, T-Roam. He's an Arizona cowboy, and the desert's his home.
Where a horse and a man become partners at dawn. And that time I'm singing this cowpuncher song. Toolie Roll'em, T-Raylum, T-Raylum, T-Roam. I'm an Arizona cowboy, and the desert's my home. Toolie Roll'em, T-Raylum, T-Raylum, T-Roam. I'm an Arizona cowboy, and the desert's my
You know, I still sing that to my horse when we're heading out to work cattle. Loved it since the first time I heard your dad sing it.
Yeah, it's a great tune. And, you know, I did, and then I went back and I pulled one of. I don't remember my life without Johnny Western in it. My life, I've never. My memories. I remember Johnny from when I was a kid, and he was only a kid. But I was a younger kid than him by about 15 years. But I remember J.W., and I've worked with him. And honestly, I owe Johnny a lot. After I finished my run in Las Vegas, I had a show in Vegas for about a year. A big, and there was a Western music segment in it, by the way. But I finished it, and I was doing 2 shows a day, 6 days a week. It's kind of like a Branson gig. And I just, I set my guitar down, and I said, I don't think I ever want to play this darn thing ever again in my life. And I sat there for about 4 or 5 months, and Johnny called me. He says, what are you doing? I said, I'm just sitting around. What are you doing? He says, they're giving me an award in Gene Autry, Oklahoma, and I want you to present it to me. I said, okay, I'll be happy to go there and present the award to you. And he says, while you're there, he says, make sure you bring your guitar so you can sing. I said, John, I'm not singing anymore. He says, yeah, bring your guitar anyway. And so I did, and what the end result is that I went on stage and I did an hour show with just me and the guitar, and found the love of music again. And that's all thanks to Johnny.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
He's the one that got me back singing again. And ironically enough, when I retire in Wilcox on October 7th, Johnny is going to do the introduction on me.
Oh, wow.
But that's why I cut Johnny Yuma.
Yeah.
Because I'd heard Johnny do it for years. And the thing is that he and Cash are not listed as writers on it because of some, copyright crap that goes on. And but it was Johnny, Cash and Western, that actually wrote the lyrics to it.
Right. Yeah.
To get credit.
Yeah. Oh, for gosh sake. No, what a treasure. And he just had a hip replacement.
It's one of those things with Johnny Western. God doesn't want him yet.
Yeah.
God just doesn't want him. He said, no, I'm not ready to have him around here.
And your version on the new CD is just great, but, I think it's only fitting that we let folks hear Johnny's version of Johnny Yuma.
Johnny Yuma was a rebel. He rode through the West. Did Johnny Yuma, the rebel, he wandered alone. Now he got fighting mad, this rebel lad. Well, he packed no star as he wandered far, but the only law was a hook and a draw. The rebel, Johnny Yuma was a rebel. He rode through the West. Did Johnny Yuma, the rebel, he wandered alone. He searched the land, this restless land. He was panther quick and leather tough, and he figured that he'd been pushed enough. The rebel, Johnny Yuma.
But it was Johnny, Cash and Western, that actually wrote the lyrics to it.
Yeah.
To get credit. One of those things with Johnny Western. God doesn't want him yet. No, God just doesn't want him. He said, no, I'm not ready to have him around here.
He got fighting mad, this rebel lad. With a dream he'd hold to his dying breath, he searched his soul and gambled with death. The rebel, Johnny Yuma, Johnny Yuma, Johnny Yuma.
And in our classic Song of the West segment this week, the song will be sung by Johnny Western. And there's much more from Rex Allen Jr. and Baxter Black as the story of the worst deal a horse trader ever made when the Spirit of the West continues right after this.
Howdy, friends. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan with a little peek at the Halflinger deal. What holds the loaded 30,000-pound trailer to the heavy-duty truck? What holds a 38-foot RV trailer to the dually? What holds the 2-horse trailer with your daughter's favorite pony to the half-ton pickup? Well, the odds are it's a B&W trailer hitch, probably a turnover bowl, American-made, employee-owned, customer-tuned, and proud of their part in America's greatness. B&W, holding things together down the road. Two Jumps has a long history of famous horse trades in his native Tennessee. According to him, at one time or another, he could have owned Doc Bars, Gallant Fox, Midnight Sun, Neighbor, Fury, or Trigger. But things just didn't work out. More typical was his halflinger trade. A feller from up the holler named Mr. Salchecker owned a team of halflingers. For those y'all who are unusual equine impaired, they are a breed of draft ponies. Good stout horses, maybe 14 hands, and useful for pulling things in tight places. Well, Two Jumps had seen these halflingers and thought they looked pretty flashy, so a deal was made. On delivery, Two Jumps hooked these halflingers up to his nice little surrey for a test drive, and then the phone rang in the barn. Two Jumps answered it, and it was one of the local irritants. This is the kind of feller that will call and talk for hours about your horse, or your cow, or your land, or your halflingers, but never buy anything. During the conversation, Leroy, Two Jumps' resident horse training consultant and test crash dummy, wandered in and pointed to the halflingers tied outside, meaning, could he take them for a spin? Well, Two Jumps covered the mouthpiece and said, "Sure, but take 'em to the arena. I'm not sure how broke they are." 15 minutes later, while Two Jumps was still scratching the local irritant, Leroy stumbled back through the barn door. His shirt was ripped off, his hat looked like a hippopotamus cud, and one spur was bent sideways. Leroy's story, as embellished by Two Jumps, was as follows. "They seemed calm enough, so I took 'em out to the pasture. Pusher," the miniature stud horse, "came over the hill. He spooked 'em all. They broke for the woods, and Two Jumps, part of your surrey's in the pond, part of your surrey's in the cedar tree, and I don't know where the other part is." Two Jumps got a call 10 days later from a feller who'd heard of the halflingers and was interested in buying, but wouldn't pay more than $1,000 apiece. Perfect timing, thought Two Jumps, who had just unloaded them at the Murfreesboro sale barn last weekend for $250. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan, brought to you by B&W Turnover Bowl.
Okay, just ahead of the Rangeland news, here's one from longtime rancher Charlie Ewing. He's performing all over Alberta these days. Great picker, songwriter, and darn good cowboy.
Now I've been a cowboy all my life, tried to live by the cowboy code, doing it all from the back of a horse, just like my grandpa showed me. Well, cows and the horses, they never change, they always stay the same. Folks are never satisfied to play the same old game. Mr. Bell never knew just what he done when he made that telephone. Got them old electronic cowboy blues. I've been trying real hard to live my life in the 19th century, but every day the 21st keeps creeping up on me. Well, the boss, he likes to keep in touch. He gave me this little phone. I got bucked off hard when it rang real loud to the tune of the Strawberry Roan, 'cause that snorty coat was not impressed with new technology. I've got them old electronic cowboy blues. Electronic cowboy blues. I hate computers, I don't like computers. Give me a home where the buffalo roam. Electronic cowboy blues. Now I thought a Bluetooth happened just before it brought it out. Adobe was a house of mud and Yahoo was a shout. Well, apples and blackberries, they were something that you ate. And Y2K was a neighbor's brand, not a famous date. And a fighter ram was a coyote's lunch, did I lose my memory? I've got them old electronic cowboy blues. Electronic cowboy blues. I hate computers, I don't like computers. Give me a home where the buffalo roam. Electronic cowboy blues. Last night I dreamt I was standing there Inside the pearly gates, St. Peter came to let me in. He looked just like Bill Gates. He said, I need your username and password if you please. But I could not remember them. I got down on my knees. He said, you'll have to try again, son, or go the other way. I got them old electronic cowboy blues. Electronic cowboy blues. I hate computers. I don't like computers. Give me a home where the buffalo roam. Electronic cowboy blues. Yeah, give me a home where the buffalo roam. Electronic cowboy blues.
The news of the rangeland, a roundup of news and coming events from around the West.
Top of page 1, it says, for those of us in the business of raising livestock for food, food safety is always a concern. Now, here's something that if I had spent more time in the kitchen and more time reading cookbooks, I might have known. And, by the way, welcome to new reporter Stephanie Hope.
If you're the kind of person who washes her raw chicken before cooking, stop it.
It spreads bacteria around your kitchen. So, as you're running the water and washing the chicken, the bacteria aerosolizes and just kind of scatters around the sink area.
That was Marianne Gravely, one of USDA's senior food safety specialists.
Your clean dishes in your dish drainer, your sponge, your soap, the handles on your sink, your hand towel, all those things are going to get bacteria on them, and those are all things that are not going to go in the oven and get cooked.
Yup, cooking, not washing, is the way to go.
If you cook chicken to 165 degrees, you'll kill all the bacteria that might be present there, and it'll be perfectly safe.
This is not only safer, it will save time, because you don't have to wash your raw chicken first. This is Stephanie Ho, reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
And here's a source we haven't quoted very often, the Vietnam News. And the story says more and more Canadian beef exporters are seeking a bigger share of the market in Vietnam. Canada's Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food, Lawrence Macaulay, was recently in that country to introduce Canadian beef products. And last year, Canada exported over $2 billion in beef. Asia has become one of the priority markets, with Vietnam ranked as a market with high potential. Well, we've heard of NAFTA, but CETA is a name that hasn't been in the news that much. It stands for Compensative Economic and Trade Agreement. Last month it was approved by the European Parliament. Canadian Parliament says a timeline can be set for implementation, and some reporters say if that happens, it could open the way for about 80,000 tons of Canadian pork and 65,000 tons in total of Canadian beef, as well as 3,000 tons of bison and duty-free exports of horse meat going to Europe and Asia. Saskatchewan's government has announced changes to Saskatchewan's Premises ID program, and over the coming months, the Saskatchewan Ministry of Agriculture Livestock Programs will begin requiring applicants to have a PID number to participate. Saskatchewan's voluntary PID program was launched in June of 2014. Currently, less than 3,000 of the province's livestock and poultry producers, veterinarians, feedlots, and other livestock commingling sites are enrolled. Well, Saturday, May 13th, will be a great chance to visit with the neighbors you haven't seen all winter. That's the big spring consignment machinery sale at the BC Livestock Co-op in Kamloops. And that's where you can see that beautiful 1973 Massey rebuilt from the ground up by Mark McMillan. Couple of big bull sales coming up at the Innisfail auction market, and April 22nd, the Spring Fever Red and Black Angus sale. Get all the details at InnisfailAuctionMarket.com. And that takes us to the final item, and the local Mounties had a roadblock set up in our little town the other day, and actually was on the way between the ranch and town, and I got myself into some trouble. They were checking for distracted drivers and were giving advice to everybody they stopped. And the nice lady constable looked in the window and said, how you doing? And I said, fine. And I said, I never talk or text when I'm driving. And she said, well, you know what? You can even be safer if you put it into airplane mode. So I left, and a mile or two down the road I got stopped again, and this time it was for speeding. And I tried to explain to her I was only doing what they suggested, trying to get my pickup going fast enough to be in airplane mode. I still hadn't even had it off the ground. And that's the Rangeland News. Coming up on the Irvine Saddles and Western Wear Horse Training File, we'll deal with a very common problem with a horse that was fine when he was turned out last fall, and when he's brought back in the spring, he seems really spooky. And there's more from Rex Allen Jr. when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. This time of year, I hear from a lot of riders who say their horse was doing pretty well when they stopped riding for the winter, and when they started with him in the spring, he seemed really spooky and nervous. Pretty common situation, and we'll look at it in the Irvine Saddles and Western Wear Horse Training File, coming right up after a great old Bob Nolan song done here by a group that my guest, Rex Allen Jr., is a big fan of. These guys backed up his dad for many, many years, and Rex Jr. at times. The voices of Jerry Compton, Don Richardson, Doc Denning, and Dick Goodman, the Reinsmen.
Sun goes down, work's all done, evening's here at last. Moon comes up behind the hills I love, and I'm riding home. He's riding home. See that lonesome cowboy riding down that lonesome trail. Moonlight shadows swaying to the tune of his lonesome wail. Well, he's riding home. He's riding home. Bed down, doggies, rest a while, and I'll be back tomorrow morn to take you down to where the water's cool. But now I'm riding home. He's riding home. See that lonesome cowboy riding down that lonesome trail. Moonlight shadows swaying to the tune of his lonesome wail. Well, he's riding home. He's riding home. Night birds fly through the sky, heading home with me. When they get there, they'll tell the one I love that I'm riding home. He's riding home. See that lonesome cowboy riding down that lonesome trail. Moonlight shadows swaying to the tune of his lonesome wail. Well, he's riding home. He's riding
Now it's time for the Horse Training File, brought to you by Irvine Tack and Western Wear, Canada's largest Western store.
Experience the true Spirit of the West at Canada's largest Western store, Irvine Tack and Western Wear. If you need a curb strap or a 4-star gooseneck trailer, you'll find it here. A saddle for every rider. Cutters, reiners, penners, trainers, working ranch cowboys, ropers. They have over 1,200 in stock. And they have Western wear for the entire family. And how about a gift card? Shop online at irvinesaddles.ca. Free shipping on orders of over $100. irvinesaddle.ca, 1-877-946-9494. You know, every year around this time, I hear from a lot of folks who've run into problems with a horse that has had most of the winter off. A common complaint is he was fine last fall when I quit riding him, and when I got on him this morning, he was tense, tight, nervous, and jumpy, and I just couldn't get him to go where I wanted. Well, the more experienced a person is, the easier they can assess the state of mind of a horse, and it starts before you even catch him. If he's a little reluctant to be caught, that's where you've got to start. And once you catch him, keep this principle in mind. If you want the horse thinking that good things happen when you show up. Now make sure you can, from the halter shank, have him disengage his hindquarters and cross his outside hind leg in front of the inside as he moves in both directions. Make sure you can have him lower his head easily with very light pressure. And when you saddle him, be as polite as you can when you pull the cinch up, and don't pull it tight until you've moved him around a few times. And as you get ready to mount, make sure that he can see you with his left eye, and maybe just step up into the stirrup a time or two before you swing your leg over, much like the first ride on a colt. Now, I like to have a handful of mane in my left hand, along with the reins, and the left rein a little bit tighter than the right one. And what I do once I'm in the saddle depends on the horse. Some of them like to just walk off a few steps, and others will require untracking their hindquarters first and then easing into a walk. If his head's down in a normal position and he seems relaxed, I'll probably head out the gate and up the trail. But if his head's high and he has a worried look about him, I'll do whatever it takes in familiar surroundings to help him relax. Trotting him in big circles really helps, and even some of my good ranch horses need a pretty good long session of trotting before I feel that rhythm and cadence coming back. And one more thing, and I've said this many times, I won't ask him to lope until I hear him blow his nose. Once he blows some air out of his nose a few times, that's tension coming out, he's relaxed and warmed up a little more and ready to go. Something else that really helps our horses is that daily feeding of Hoffman's Horse Ration. Find out more at hoffmanshorseration.com. And for Canada's largest western wear shop, Irvine Saddles and Western Wear, that's the Horse Training File. Rex Allen Jr. is still on the line, and we'll talk about the Reinsmen, a group that you just heard, and much more after this, the first single from Rex's new CD, a song written by Dick Goodman of the Reinsmen, the beautiful Call of the Canyon.
From the crest of the mountain to the valley below, the deep dark blue canyons where the white waters flow, all nature's singing, her love comes a-winging, the call of the canyon is beckoning, beckoning me, beckoning me, calling me home, calling me home. The cry of the coyote, the flight of the dove, the bighorn a-grazing on the ridge high above, where the timber's singing and the wild hawk is winging, the call of the canyon is beckoning, beckoning me, beckoning me, calling me home, calling me home. So I'll sing to the sky, the mountains on high, I'll sing to the rivers and streams, for their beauty is part of the song in my heart, part of this wanderer's dream. So it's soon I'll be going where the cool breeze is blowing, across high mountain meadows where the clear waters flow, to the crest of the mountain to view nature's fountain. The call of the canyon is beckoning, beckoning me, beckoning me, calling me home, calling me So I'll sing to the sky, the mountains on high. I'll sing to the rivers and streams, for their beauty is part of the song in my heart, and part of this wanderer's dream. So it's soon I'll be going where the cool breeze is blowing, across high mountain meadows where the clear waters flow, to the crest of the mountain to view nature's fountain. The call of the canyon is beckoning, beckoning me, beckoning me, calling me home, calling me home, calling me
home. Dick Goodman's beautiful song, sung by Rex Allen Jr. And hey, Rex.
How are Dick and Dixie doing? I haven't...
Dick and Dixie, you're... Damn it, Dick, you mean?
Yeah.
Damn it, Dick.
Yep.
You know, for the first 4 years I knew him, he'd call over there and be talking to Dick, and you'd hear Dixie in the background going, damn it, Dick, that's not right. Damn it, Dick.
Yep.
And so I thought that was his name, damn it, Dick.
He actually...
doing great.
That's good to hear.
They're doing great. Yeah. I, as a matter of fact, I was in... I went down and was there for Dick's 85th birthday.
Oh, great. So. I believe he has a guitar that was owned by Bob Nolan at one time. I think I saw.
Yeah, and I've been trying to get it.
Yeah, well. Yeah.
But he won't give it to me. Actually, he's going to give it to Bob Nolan's grandson, I think is what he's going to do. And I think that's a wonderful thing.
Oh, that would be wonderful. Yeah, that'd be Colin, probably. Colin Kilburn, I think. Yeah, oh, terrific. Oh, it's good to hear he's doing well, man. I did a 4-part series on the life and times of Bob Nolan years ago, and I bet I spent 2 hours on the phone with Dick just getting some of those wonderful stories. And yeah, Call of the Canyon, what a song. Well, we'll sure slip that one in.
And I'll tell you what, we got so much more to talk about, Rex, and thanks for doing this, but let's continue with another call in the next week or so. And next, it's Johnny Western and this week's classic Song of the West, then the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight, when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. It's time for our classic Song of the West, and this week we're going back to the Western legend that Rex referred to so fondly, Johnny Western. From John Ford's classic Western Wagon Master in the movie from 1950, Stan Jones wrote most of the songs, and that film was about a Mormon pioneer wagon to the San Juan River Valley in Utah. And the film was conceived, produced, and directed by the legendary director John Ford, and it starred Ben Johnson, Harry Carey Jr., Ward Bond, and many others. It was inspired by the U.S. television series Wagon Train that ran from 57 to 65, and the critical audience's response to Wagon Master was maybe lukewarm on its release. Over the years, a lot of critics have come to view it as maybe one of John Ford's best ever. It's filled with a lot of song and dance interludes accompanied by a steady stream of hymns and ballads performed by the Sons of the Pioneers. And Stan Jones, who of course wrote Ghost Riders in the Sky, wrote 4 original songs that the Sons did in the film's soundtrack. And this one is reheard repeatedly throughout the movie, and this version features the Sons of the Pioneers backing up the great Johnny Western. Rollin' Dust.
They ride along the fading trails of long, long ago, and sparks of hoofbeats glitter in the shadows as they go. Out across the backlands where the dust has laid so long, you'll see them loping through the night and hear their riding song. years are long and many since they rode down into town. It's now just weeds and wormy boards and shacks all tumbled down. Where once they stood up to the bar and pretty girls discussed, they now hear ghostly laughter through a veil of heavy dust. And boots and saddles are all moldy as they ride. Their faces grim and silent, cause for them all time has died. Out there with a night wind, they ride on through the dust, and guns a-swinging at their sides have crumbled into rust. See them in the history books or in a cloudy sky. Their fame will live forever and their ghosts will never die. Out there with the night wind, they ride because they must, though deep down in some lonely grave they've long since turned to dust.
Johnny Western and the Sons of the Pioneers, and that bottom bass voice singing that Rollin' Dust line. The original Sons of the Pioneers version that you heard in the movie Wagon Master was, of course, Hugh Farr, but Thurl Ravenscroft, who was the voice of Tony the Tagger, remember on those TV commercials years ago, did a lot of studio vocals with him, and that was Thurl that you heard on that recording with Johnny and the Sons of the Pioneers. And next week, I'll have a big announcement about the Sons of the Pioneers. Now, earlier today, Rex Allen Jr. talked about shining up 75 pairs of cowboy boots when he was helping his famous father get ready to go on a 3-month tour with Coco, and that somehow made me think of this piece of cowboy poetry from Leroy Watts.
You know, I still remember my mother when I was just a lad. Then I would often hear her gently scold my dad. Harley, how often must I remind you? Leave those filthy boots outside the door. Have you guys ever heard that before? Don't track half the corral into this house. I just mop the kitchen floor. And Dad would smooth her rustful feathers. That was his daily trial. And soon he'd win her over with his charming, tender smile. But that was many years ago. Dad has taken his last ride. Though years have passed, the memories last. But tears are hard to hide. Now Mother sits at the kitchen window, just staring out beyond the pasture gate. And I hear her whisper softly, I'd best warm over supper. It looks like Harley might be late. I wonder if she really knows he's gone, or is she just pretending to hide the hurt she feels inside from a broken heart that's slowly mending. But Dad's old boots are still resting there, just outside the kitchen door. And again I hear my mother whisper, I wonder what's keeping Harley. He's never been this late before. But then on the other side of that great divide, I see my father smiling there. And I see a pair of golden boots at the top of that golden stair. But some old habits just never die. And to that I can relate, for I see those boots are resting there, just outside that golden gate.
Well, thank you so much for making the ride this week, and I sure hope you can saddle up and ride along next week right here at the same time. And thanks again to our great support crew. That's Mark and Kathy McMillan. They own and operate Meadow Springs Guest Ranch, and if you're looking for a vacation in real ranching country with miles of trails to ride and you're welcome to bring your own horse, check them out at meadowsprings.com. And check out Mark's other great operation at bctractorparts.com. And oh, I love going through the back issues of Canadian Cowboy Country Magazine. You can subscribe online at cowboycountrymagazine.com or just give them a call at 1-800-943-7336. And a reminder for our U.S. listeners that you can now see Cowboy Country Television on RFD TV. Oh yeah, and be sure to check out our Spirit of the West radio show Facebook page where you can watch and listen to many of our past programs. And check out our Spirit of the West cruise page, too. Till next week, I'm Hugh McLennan. Hope to see you down the trail somewhere real soon.